Welcome to TRAFFIK Talks. I'm Adam McCabe, content producer here at TRAFFIK. Our topic for today is The World is Watching, YouTube and the Corona Crisis. Let's meet our panel. First, we have Bo A., Senior UX Engineer for YouTube. Good afternoon, Bo.
Good afternoon.
And also joining us today for he's going to be our host for the afternoon. We have President and CEO of TRAFFIK, Anthony Trimino. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, Adam. Hey, Bo.
Hey.
Yeah, let's get into this. As you know, people are pretty much a captive audience at home. They're streaming more, they're online more, they're glued to their TVs, their devices. And this is worldwide. So what are you guys seeing as far as user behavior at YouTube?
Well, yeah, definitely obviously increase in streaming, increase in every kind of user engagement you can imagine, more comments, more likes. And it's crazy because we can actually see the data of the correlation between upticks in this engagement and location of quarantines. So we can see as different places shut down, we see this engagement spike up. So it's really interesting to see, and it's it's a worldwide phenomenon. This pandemic is happening everywhere, so it's pretty unprecedented to see these correlated spikes all over the place, and with the same cause that what it is. So as an engineer, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like a predictive model, right? You can,
yeah, right.
Based on when things are shutting down or opening up, you can pretty much predict kind of spikes and declines in usage. Speaking of that, as I said, we've had a captive audience. You guys have had a captive audience. But people are starting to return to some sense of normalcy, right? So as states reopen, regions reopen, and people start to walk away from their computers, how do you see their online habits changing or evolving kind of post-COVID, post-lockdown?
I actually think it's interesting because this uptick in engagement is not just returning users just using it more. We're seeing a lot of new users that's never used YouTube before. And you think about you take YouTube for granted, right? Everybody knows YouTube, but really you're talking about a worldwide phenomenon, right? So for instance, the product that I work on specifically is mobile web. And mobile web, a lot of our traffic comes from emerging markets, right? And these emerging markets, not everybody has cell phones, but we've seen new users jump onto these super cheap devices where there's only a mobile web platform on there, and then engagement has gone up there too. So it's really interesting. So with that in mind, a lot of these are new users, right? Not users that are used to using the web, like YouTube. I expect their engagement is going to continue after COVID. And in fact, I think with the transition of businesses starting to use more online services, these new users probably have never ordered a delivery online, users that have that available to them in first world countries and stuff. Many of these new users have never ordered anything online, right? There's a whole uptick in this engagement of everything online. So it's really hard to see that going back to the way it was. And I have more information from this because I worked in e-commerce for so many years that when we were first starting on Google Express, right? And Google Express was Google's answer to Amazon. It was when we started seeing new users, it was really hard for them to not shopping. But the hardest thing to do was get them to make that first order, right? After they make that first online order, they're hooked, right? And so and as people that are used to technology, it's really easy to overlook that a lot of our users that are now online because they're forced to be, because of lockdown, because of quarantine, are experiencing this new experience that we take for granted, right? And so this is going to continue. I really think this engagement is going to carry on past COVID,
That's interesting because you think with a lot of the new platforms, that YouTube or platforms like YouTube may lose relevancy. But in reality, what you're saying is that because we have more online users and more online users for the first time, platforms that we have maybe taken for granted, like YouTube, become new and they become relevant. And so you probably have seen a resurgence of activity, a newness, and people finally accessing content that, again, to your point, we've been accessing for years, have been taken for granted. But whether that's a younger demographic or older demographic getting introduced to it for the first time, this has created user behaviors that make platforms like YouTube relevant again, or even more relevant than they have been. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just like consumption of like media, right? It's the way you conduct business, the way you order stuff, the way you order food even, or the way you check on if a store has something, which is something so simple for us. Like people used to call in and ask their local market, do you have this, right? If they really need it on spot. Now they realize they could just go online and do it. And like that engagement goes to search too, like, and people forget YouTube's like the second largest search engine in the world, right? So we see an uptick in searches of like queries that are like people asking for information from these new users too. So they're not just like looking for a video, they're actually seeking out information, you know, on YouTube, on Google search, wherever it may be, and they're brand new. So it's pretty, I think it's an unfortunate situation to be forced into it because of the circumstances. But and we have to be conscious of that. Like, but in terms of from an online marketing perspective, I think it's that push is actually a great thing.
Yeah, from an agency perspective, we haven't seen a decline in the desire to want to produce content for your platform. It continues to be a go-to platform and solution that we integrate in all of our media planning. So, and with TV being expensive, again, creating content online for your platform we have not seen a drop. And if anything, to your point, it's likely that we're going to see a spike, and that's going to be elevated. It's more and more people.
I doubt the world's going to be the same, like, after this, right? Like the way business is conducted as usual will not go back to the way it was before. And so like, yeah, it's definitely, a lot of things are going to change, and like and a lot of it, technology is going to drive a lot of that stuff. So
yeah, we were talking to some restaurant owners, and we've been talking to people in the technology space and security space and EDU space.
Yep.
Consumer behavior has changed, and it will remain changed. And so it's important that platforms, marketers learn to adapt and follow the trends on where the eyes are going, and put the right content in front of the right people on the right platform at the right time. And so our jobs, we have our job cut out for us, but thanks to the good work that you guys are doing and other platforms like yourself that are, creating, or they're a place for content to exist. It's giving us more options to brand and to market products and services for our clients. So we're excited about, what this has created. You're right, it's an unfortunate situation, but we're excited about the demand that it's created for online marketing. And on that, as we start thinking about users and kind of their changing need for content, have you seen the type of content people are accessing change with this pandemic?
Not so much. I think people are definitely searching for more answers to questions. Definitely more, they're searching out information. I think
education as opposed to just entertainment, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot more like, search queries, not just about like how to do things, but also like about what's going on, searches for news. And those are all like, I drop that in the bucket of education. People are looking for answers. And it's also like interesting because like from a platform side, like you want to be conscious about like the influx of this new information, right? And you want to do it in a responsible way. And so we've been really trying to push out features that will like, show like authoritative information, you know, like letting people know like, hey, you know, there's actually a you know, peer-reviewed article about this that might, this video might not be true, you know. So it's important from a platform standpoint for those to happen too, those features. So it's kind of like part of the challenge of this growth is also the responsibility of it too.
Sure.
So.
You know, businesses at all sizes have been impacted by what's going on. For companies that have agencies like us to kind of navigate them through strategic approaches and tactical executions, you know, we have, you know, they have partnerships like ours, and we can make suggestions and consult and guide them through. But really, the small business owners have been the ones that have really been impacted by what's going on. And as small business owners look to a platform like YouTube to reach its consumer base, like what would you say has been successful for the small, the medium-sized businesses that cannot engage with an agency like TRAFFIK, that are looking to engage with their audience, kind of bring people back utilizing your platform?
Yeah. I mean, like that's definitely a challenge, right? Like, but as part of this, like social distancing, right, is happening. Like, I think community building is going to be a huge thing. And like these small businesses have their own communities already, right? They have these mom and pop shops have their regulars, these people that like go there to engage with the people. And I mean, YouTube and these social media platforms are a great way for them to maintain that community and even build it. I think that's one of the great things about this is it really enables to maintain those connections, right? And especially for these small businesses and mom and pop shops, like those connections are important, right? And like platforms in which they can actually like engage with their customers, maybe like, you know, show them new things that are happening or what's happening behind the scenes, or, you know, like it's really a way to keep them engaged in this time of social distancing is the best way to put it, right? Yeah. So
on that note, as small businesses and people look to leverage your platform and they think about producing content, you know, what advice do you have to content creators and people that want to advertise? What type of content are YouTube users consuming, so that those content creators can develop and create content that's relevant?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like it's such a huge spectrum of stuff, right? And it's nice that like YouTube in itself is built around community. So you can find your community of like bakeries, or you can find your community of like, you know, baked good lovers, right? And platforms like YouTube, even like, you know, Facebook and all these other social media platforms where people can actually engage with each other and rally around this content itself, right? I think that's kind of the key point. Like you can find your community within these platforms, and I think the key is to find the right community within it to engage in for these businesses.
And you know what I think? One of the things we've noticed too is that during this pandemic, I think there's been a resurgence of lo-fi content. Mm-hmm. Not expensively produced content, big elaborate productions. I think just this interaction that you and I are having right now, right? It's lo-fi. It's not hyper produced. It's, you know, I'm sitting at home. You're probably at home. Yep. We, for the last 2 months, have been forced to communicate in a lo-fi environment and low production value. And it's become authentic and genuine and something that we're accustomed to now. And I think that right now, the best advice to give a lot of business owners out there is not to overthink it and not to necessarily think that you have to invest a lot in production. This situation, this crisis has created an audience that's ready for lo-fi, meaningful, engaging, authentic, genuine content that can be shot with the phone, it can be shot with the camera on your computer. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I think people tend to get caught up in overthinking, and that creates paralysis. And ultimately, my advice would be just go out there and put out content, exercise that muscle, continue to do it, continue to provide value, and ultimately you'll get better at producing content. You'll find what the audience is responding to. It's almost like put content out there, see how they respond. That's crowdsourcing, right? Crowdsourcing that feedback, and then pivot and alter and adapt. And then before you know it, you'll have content that continues to be relevant for your audience.
And it's great because the feedback loop is so fast online, right? Like you get that immediate feedback, and
sometimes too fast. As we think about the future of YouTube and kind of what's next, what are you most excited about, and what should we as marketers be most excited about with regards to YouTube?
I think, I mean, it's interesting because you're asking that question to an engineer, right? So like, I'm actually excited about like all this influx of data that we'll be able to collect from new usages. Like you see, like all this being forced online has like changed a lot of industries, like music industries, like key points. A lot of artists made money off of like concerts, right? Live concerts, but now they've moved to like online streaming. Like big box productions, like The Daily Show, right? Like Trevor Noah, right? He's going back to his roots. That's where he was discovered, was on YouTube. And now that's why he was one of the first ones back on YouTube when this pandemic happened, because he already knew how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's interesting. Like, I'm excited that like people are embracing this, like you said, lo-fi productions, but it's really kind of raw and like authentic, like you said. So like, it just cuts out all the extra stuff, and you just get to what you need what kind of messages you want to convey in terms of like what you want to convey to your users, what messages you want to do, like what you want to, it's just easy now, I guess. Yeah.
And
I like the bar too, right?
You said data. I love that you said data, because data drives pretty much everything that we do as an agency. And the fact that you have more people utilizing the platform means more data, more the ability to identify user behavior, which then translates into equipping businesses and marketers with information and insights, so that our messaging could be more on target, which is better for the consumer, because ultimately it means that the messages that they see are more catered to their needs and their habits and their behavior. And ultimately, you know, this is an example of where data actually helps. People are usually afraid of data, data collection, data sharing. But if we can, as marketers and you as a platform, use the data in a positive, effective way to ensure that what we put in front of people is more in line with what they want to see, then I think that their experience on your platform will be more pleasant, more pleasurable. And for us, the results that we can generate for our clients will be more productive. We'll be able to drive ROI. Yeah.
And I mean, like one of the things this also, like we noticed, like one of the side effects is like businesses are shrinking their advertising budgets, right? We have seen like advertising revenue start to drop, right? But our content creators are like, don't always make money off of the advertising on their content, but they do make money off the other monetization strategies we have, you know, in YouTube or other platforms, right? Like they can sell stuff on YouTube through our merchant center, or there's all these other types of monetization channels that they have access to, right? And I think people are really exploring those alternative monetization channels now too, as advertising budgets shrink. But another like angle to that is like, with all this like all this extra traffic that we're getting and all this extra user engagement, like now's the time to spend on targeted ads, because now's the time where people are engaging, you know. But
we do a lot of work. We do a lot of work in the healthcare space, and they keep asking me, you know, what is your prediction for end of the year, which is the enrollment period for health plans? What's your prediction, and kind of what are your insights? I'm like, spend. From a media perspective, we have a captive audience. So what are you talking about? Like, people are more glued to their TVs, their devices, their phones, streaming channels, all these platforms. From a marketing perspective, I mean, we have more ponds to fish out of now. it's
not
awesome.
just that, but it's like it's not just more, right? But people are proactively searching content out now instead of passively consuming things like TV in the background, or like now that's they're actually very engaged. As I told you at the beginning of the podcast, like all engagement has gone up, not just like not just views, right? Like comments, like likes, like people are really engaged in the content that they are currently consuming, because their concentration is on point now. Like, so
the internet is their social channel now. We've basically all funneled down the same vehicle, and so again, it just goes back to all this increased usage translates into data. The data translates into people like us, people like you, being able to serve up the right content in front of the right people at the right time, which at the end of the day creates a better user experience for the consumer, hands down. So good information, very good insights. Thank you so much for having a chat with me and talking about YouTube and what you guys are doing. We really appreciate it, and we will be talking soon.
Yeah, I appreciate the call.
Thanks so much, Bo. That's all the time for today's Traffic Talk. If you have any questions for our panel, or you would like to work together, you could always find us online at wearetraffic.com. We'll see you on the next Traffic Talk. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.